G'day, it's Joe from League Fit Academy here. I am sitting here with Chris and welcome to episode 1 of Run It Straight. This channel is for young rugby league players who are trying to get better. If you've got a question, please send your questions DM via Instagram, Facebook, email, via text. Ask Chris or myself in person if you're currently in the program. You can get your mum to ask us the question, your dad to give us a call. Send your questions through and we'll do our best to answer them. Question number 1. This comes to us via Instagram from Aiden. Please, I need help from you. I'm just about to play under 14s and I'm really scared because everyone is bigger than me. I'm 5'7", very skinny, weigh 51 kilos. What do I do? P.S. You guys have made me believe in myself. Thank you. Well, firstly, Aiden, you're welcome. Right off the bat, we've had guys who've come in who've been a similar size to that and they've done work with us for a period of time. They've put on some size. So look, if you're 170 centimeters tall, I think that's going into under 14s. That's actually a pretty decent height. And if you're turning 14 this year, you're probably going to have another 2 or 3 years of actually getting taller. So I wouldn't worry too much. You're probably in front of would you say 70 or 80% of our guys at that age group? So there's not too much of an issue there, number 1. Number 2, you've got to get yourself into a gym and you need to start training. So whether you're doing that, okay, no, I'll back up a little bit. You need to put on some size. So 2 things that we need to do if we want to put on some size. Number 1 is you need to start eating more food. Okay, that's pretty simple. There's something called a caloric surplus, which simply means that if, let's say, every day you need 2,000 calories to stay at exactly the same weight, if you eat 2,500 calories, you're going to start to get bigger. Now, I don't want you to just start eating more food and getting really fat because that's not going to be particularly helpful on the field. But you do need to eat a calorie surplus. That's number 1. Number 2 is you need to start to lift weights. So, you're 14. Obviously, well, I'm assuming from this, you haven't really given us a whole lot of information here, but I'm assuming that you're coming from a non-training or a non-lifting background. You've got to get someone who knows what they're doing to assess you initially, and then cue you in, write out a program that's going to be designed for you for where you're at right now to start to put some size on. So you're probably going to need to be getting in the gym 3 or 4 days a week. Following this set program by whoever does this assessment. What I would definitely recommend is not to just go and start doing it yourself. We've had quite a lot of guys who have come into the program from going off and doing things on themselves. Quite a lot of them have had injuries, and if they haven't had injuries, they've had significant imbalances which end up causing issues, and we have to spend a lot of time trying to fix those imbalances before we can sort of start moving forward with them. Does that make sense? So, number 1, you've got to start eating more food than you are right now. So a good way to go about doing that is there's an app that we have all of our guys use called MyFitnessPal. Download the app onto your phone, start inputting everything that you eat into it, and you'll get a good idea of how many calories at the moment you're eating on a regular basis. So let's say it is 2,000 and you're not really growing. So we know surplus, you might need 2.5 or you might need 3,000 calories. That's number 1. Number 2 is to find someone who is qualified and experienced, get them to assess you, get them to write out a program, and ideally take you through it at least the first few times so that your technique's on point and they can help you select the right load. Chris, you got anything to add in?
Don't shy away from contact. Work on technique and keep at it. So don't try to get into your shell and sort of avoid contact because the boys are bigger than you. I know plenty of boys that tackle 3 times, guys 3 times their size. As long as your tackle technique is correct, get in, drive nice and low, and don't shy away from the contact.
Yeah, so that's probably the other thing that I wasn't talking about there was, that I didn't mention, that Chris mentioned, is you've got to get confident doing this. So you need to, whether it's just with your club coach, if you have a chat to him and say, look, I want to work on my tackle technique or my contact when I'm running the ball, one of the 2, so that you can get more confident. And you've just got to practice. Some people that are naturals at football, you teach them in under 6s how to tackle, and they perform 5 or 6 or 7 and then they just get it. And then other guys, it takes literally 3 or 4 or 5 years, and it's only by under 11s or under 12s that they actually get decent at it. So talk to your coach, get him to give you some cueing, practice your technique and just keep practicing and practicing and practicing. Next question comes to us from Hayden. Hey guys, just wondering what the goal of your program is and who is it for? Chris?
So pretty broad. But the goal of our program is to basically have some guidance for younger boys. Myself and Joe's passion is rugby league. One of the things that we do hate to see is boys not knowing how to improve or being able to go through the ranks, the representative levels. So what we're after is basically giving the boys some guidance. Anyone with a dream that works hard enough can definitely beat someone that's talented. So if you don't necessarily have all the talent, but you're looking to work hard, that's something that you can definitely achieve with us, and will get you to a level where you can play rep footy.
The goal of the program is to make anyone as good a footballer as they can possibly be. So, for some people, whatever their level is it's to take a 2 to a 5. And that might take 12 months to get someone from a 2 out of 10 to a 5 out of 10. Another 12 months, he might go from a 5 to a 7, where he's a now genuine contributor in that team. Another 12 months, and maybe he's now in the top 2 or 3 players in that team. And I think we've had some people that have come in that have quite honestly been garbage, and this is them, this is their parents, this is their coaches saying that to us. It's not us being overly critical. And a season or an off season later, they go out and they're playing, they're just like, it's a completely different kid. And 6 or 12 months after that, this kid's in the top 2 or 3 players in their team. And this is someone who came to us with no talent. We definitely believe that hard work will beat talent. And these days, to be honest, it's actually easier than it's probably ever been to start to beat some of the talented kids, and that's because there are so many distractions. One of the things that we do within the program is we're actually checking up on the boys' phone usage, and we do see routinely when guys come and start with us, we're looking at, which it really shocked us to start with, we're seeing like 36 or 40 hours a week spent on Snapchat and Instagram and obviously Fortnite and a few other bits and pieces. And these are guys with a lot of talent and ability, and if we get a kid who comes in and he cuts that down to say 10 hours a week, and he's now got an extra 30 hours to train, you give him 6 months and he'll beat that talented kid every single day of the week. So, in summary, who's it for? The goal of the program, the who is it for is for every single rugby league player who wants to get better regardless of what your skill level is. And the goal is to make them the best footballer that they can possibly be. And look, that's going to transfer in other areas of your life. But just talking about the football side of things, we want you to go out and get the most out of the game and enjoy it as much as you possibly can. Cool?
Yep.
All right. Next question is from Instagram. Ethan, you wouldn't happen to have any sample gym work or anything? All right. Chris, you want to talk to him about that?
Okay, so basically everything that we do here is individualized. So if you're talking about a sample, it's very hard to do that. So what we do to break it down is we get the boys in, we do an initial consultation, talk to them about all of their lifestyle habits, their diet, their sleep. We run them through flexibility testing, power testing, strength testing, and mobility as well. So
skin folds,
skin folds, and body fat measurements. Is there a sample program? The answer is no, because everything that we do is tailored for each individual.
Yeah. No, it's personalised for where someone is right now. So we have had, guys at Australian schoolboy level come into us, and then we have guys come in who, they can barely do 5 or 6 push-ups with their own body weight, and there's a significant difference between those two. And we put them all. Everyone goes through the same battery of tests to give us an idea where to start. But like Chris was saying, we could test 3 guys, and one of them could be really, really tight in the hips. So we're looking at all the muscles that cross the hip joint. We're looking to improve their flexibility and mobility. Someone else, it could be the ankle joint. Someone else may have had some shoulder issues. So we're working on. It could be mobility around the shoulder. It could be extra work for the rotator cuff and whatnot. There isn't a generalised program. We could give something out, but it's disingenuous to the kid to think that they're getting the best that they possibly can. This is why we don't have, an online component where we can just send you a bunch of stuff. Sure, you can go out and do. You can look, like I said. I think I mentioned in one of the other questions. If you're looking to do that, find the money, go and pay a strength coach to assess you wherever you are, because we do get questions. We get inquiries come to us all the time. From the Central Coast, from Wagga, from Canberra, from out Western New South Wales. We've got a couple that have come in from New Zealand. We've got questions from North Queensland. So obviously we're not in a position to help all of those guys. So we would say, look, go and find someone who's qualified, who knows what they're doing, have them assess you and have them write out a program specific to your needs. But look, in saying that, anyone in the future, if you want to send through a question, just give us a bit more detail. So tell us age, height, weight, like, who was the first question? Aiden. Give us your age, your height, your weight, your playing position, any kind of experience, what you have or you haven't done in the gym. Yeah? Give us a little bit more information to work from. Our last question comes on Instagram from Steve. I play in the outside backs and I would like to get faster. What should I do? So again, super generalized. We can give, aside from find a coach, get them to train you properly, we can give a few bits of advice. Chris?
Faster. Okay, so first you'd have to work on flexibility. On top of that, so if you do have the correct range of motion through joints, we can start working on your running technique. From the running technique, the most important thing is power through the lower body. So being able to generate more power. So
which comes down to strength.
Exactly, which means getting into the gym.
Which means, so most of these things end up coming back to something similar, which is getting properly assessed and going through the motions. But to give you a bit of an idea what that looks like, when we do assess someone for the first time, and let's say that you came into the gym and you wanted to get faster, that was the main thing that you told us, and we put you through the assessment process, and it's like, okay, well, what we need to do is we need to strengthen a lot of the stabilizers. So it could be we're doing work around your VMO at the knee, or it could be around your glutes at the hip. And what we're trying to do is to get the legs just generally stronger so that they can apply more force to the ground. If you can apply more force to the ground, you can become more powerful. And then that strength and that power that we develop then needs to be applied with your running technique. And that might mean, if your technique's fine, that's fine. It might mean going and seeing a specialist sprint coach or someone who can focus on that side of things. Does that make sense? And now outside of that, there's a few other things you can do to get quicker. If you're fat, or if your body fat levels are too high, you get them down. There's an old saying, you can't flex fat. You want to get quicker, just simply lean down. Now, when I say lean down, that doesn't mean do heaps of cardio and eat not much food and burn muscle tissue. So again, you need to be performing resistance training. So whether you're trying to put size on or you're trying to lean down and get quicker, you do need to be performing resistance training, because if you don't, when you do lean down, you're going to be using almost, well, it's not going to be half, but a significant proportion of the weight that you do lose. Let's say you're at 80 kilos and you want to get to 75, so you can get a little bit quicker. That 5 kilos you want to lose, you want that to be body fat, not lean tissue. So that means lifting weights 3 to 4 times a week, and it also means eating a little bit more protein. Yes?
Yes. One other thing I'll touch on, sprint training. There is a big difference between proper sprint training, so this is why you need a specialist coach to work with you, and hundreds. So doing 100-meter sprints with minimal rest. So if you're not resting enough, you're not recruiting the correct muscle fibers, you're not going to get any faster.
Your nervous system's not going to recover the way it should. A lot of times, guys, when they go to, it's February now, so a lot of players are going back to their clubs to train, and they'll get flogged, because that's just typically the way that it's done at this time of year, regardless of whether that's what actually needs to happen with the players. But part of that is they'll be doing quote-unquote sprints. So you'll sprint 20 or 30 or 40 metres, and then you might jog back, or you might walk back, and then you'll go again. That's not sprint training, that's conditioning work. Sprint training is once you've done your warm-ups and your activation work and whatnot, you'll sprint 20 or 30 or 40 metres, and you'll rest 3 minutes or 4 minutes or 5 minutes. Then you'll perform another rep. So the nervous system does need to recover between bouts of that. It's the same way if you're in the gym and you're trying to get strong or you're trying to get powerful, you don't rest 30 seconds between sets. You might do your squats or your deadlifts or whatever you happen to be doing, and then you're going to rest 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes before you come back and you perform another set. Otherwise, we're just starting to work on work capacity, not on actual speed. But again, those are things that you'd get from a proper sprint coach, and you'd get a proper program written out. Anything else to add to that? Okay, guys, that's pretty much all we're going to be running through today. So if you do have any questions that you'd like to send through, Instagram, Facebook, send them via email. If you're in the program, You can text message. If you've got our numbers, you can send a message to Chris or myself. You can ask us in person. You can get your mum to ask. If you're a little bit scared, you can write it in chalk in the car park. You can send a letter, do whatever you like, get the questions to us, and we'll try and do our best to answer them. Cheers.